Hello. I'm a little early. No, just fooling around. Filling a little time before people get here. One, two, ah, Got to be an invisible sun. Oh my gosh. What if there is an invisible sun? Holy cow. You know what? There could be an invisible sun. Okay, I know. Not exactly invisible, but just unseen. And that's what tonight's episode is about. The unseen second sun in our possibly binary system. It's not as impossible as it sounds. In fact, and I know I'm coming in just a little early, now you're going to have to rewind it to hear what I played. Okay, hello, I am Ocean, the Ocean Swagger of the Ocean's Deep Blue. And this is a channel which deals with the deepest of woo. And woo is all we do here. Every kind of woo. Everything from paranormal to metaphysical, spiritual, anything out of the ordinary. I do live in Ohio, so it kind of predisposes me to weird. And if you don't know about that, honestly, Ohio is weird. So let me just clue you in. So weird is what we got here. So I figured I might as well make a channel all about it, right? And that's how that happened. So, and besides, my life certainly reflects weird. Always has been kind of strange. And I have absolutely no idea whether any of this is, it's just, what's going on here? Oh dear. Well, I'm going to go on. The heart will go on. Okay, so this is going to be all about a possible second son. And that is going to be a topic that I know people are going to debate almost as much as the shape of the earth or anything else. But there are some people who have found some proof. By the way, if I am not seeing your comments, if you are here and commenting, I can't see them. Something is wrong. I am sorry. So if you are here and coming, StreamYard has been very strange. Hello, Denali Princess. I was about to do my blurb. You guys missed my guitar solo. You know, you're going to have to replay to hear the guitar solo. Um, I played a little bit of Invisible Sun. Oh, shoot, this isn't working today. Why is it not working? I don't know. Okay. So thank you for typing something because it's so hard to know. It's really been weird here with StreamYard. Like it totally made one of my streams invisible and I had to start another one last time. So it was weird. But anyway, the ocean's deep woo. We do the deepest woo. We do all kinds of woo. We absolutely uh, encourage experiencers to come forward. Most of us are experiencers, and we try to make sure that we give them the benefit of a doubt when they come on with their stories and beliefs and attitudes. Look, you have a right to your opinion, and here at Deep Woo, you always have the right to your opinion. So I always say, be nice to our guests, no matter what they're espousing. You can learn from it, from finding out what other people are experiencing and thinking about. So you can learn from anything. And tonight we're going to be talking about Invisible Sun. Now, it's not a new concept. I've heard this many times in the past, but maybe not in as much depth as what Paul's going to go into tonight. So with that, I'm going to also go into saying my blurb that I have to say. This is just in-game tips, tricks, and hacks for the massively multiplayer, total immersion, virtual reality learning game matrix called Life on Planet Earth. It has nothing to do with real life, which takes place outside the matrix. Okay, and with that, let me bring on Paul. You know him, you love him, the man, the myth, the legend. Here we go. The man, the myth, the legend, Paul Christian.
Hi, Ocean.
Going to educate us. Hello, Paul.
How are you tonight, Ocean?
I'm groovy, even though I don't have my tie-dye on. I'm still groovy.
Okay. Okay.
And by the way, you know, I mean, grooviness is encouraged. Wait, let me put on my gauzy hippie jacket because it is kind of cold in here. So I introduced you. We're basically talking about. I even before anybody came in, I played a little bit of Invisible Sun, which is basically what we're talking about here. But Sting actually had that concept in some of his music, and I am bumping my own camera. See what a professional I am. Anyway, while I am there, now I'm not freezing anymore. Okay, thank you. Oh, come on now. Now the camera doesn't want to stay put. Come on. Okay. Go for it, Paul.
Okay. So we're talking about our sun being in a binary system. So for anyone who does not know, yes, what?
Hi, Gladys Kravitz. Oh, Kravitz. Okay, sorry. Somebody came in that I forgot to say hi to. Go right ahead.
Okay.
I
Okay.
didn't.
So we're going to be talking about our solar system being in a binary star system. And all that means is that a binary star system is two stars orbiting each other. Okay. A trinary system would be three stars. So,
Gee, I'm just kidding.
yeah, I mean, this is starting off simple, okay, because some people may not know, but your
I know.
crowd maybe does. Anyhow, the reason that I'm going here is because the ancients knew this. Um, and what this drives is a very long cycle of ages. You know, um, the modern astronomers know that of our known galaxy, 80% of the stars are in binary systems. So it's not that outrageous to think that our sun might also be in a binary star system, but our modern astronomers are not teaching that at the moment.
They're not quite ready yet.
They're not quite ready for that yet. But the ancients were, because the southern shaft of the Great Pyramid is pointing directly at the star Sirius, known as the dog star. And the thing that's remarkable about that is that there's what's known as the precession of the equinoxes. Okay, so there was the age of Pisces, and now, you know, the song Age of Aquarius. Okay, so basically what that's based on, if at the either the spring or fall equinox, you look at what constellation is rising above the horizon. For 2,000 years, it was Pisces. And now, hi, Denali Princess. Now it is coming up on Aquarius. So it changes. So if you, and the ancients in Egypt designed this shaft to point right at Sirius. But now that Great Pyramid, depending on different estimates, might be anywhere between 6,000 and 12,000 years old. So, but even today, when you look through that shaft, it's still pointing at Sirius. So normally, because of the movement of stars in the sky and the size of that shaft, if Sirius moved like the other stars in the sky, it could only possibly be lined up for about 200 years. But here it is 6,000 to 12,000 years later, and it's still perfectly lined up with that shaft. Okay. So
That is strange. Serious?
yes, I am serious about Sirius.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Interesting, because Sirius rising, which we are in that time now, happens in August, and it is like a time when there's like a gateway. That's called the Lion's Gate, and that's when it's supposed to line up with our sun. So I'm like, wow. So they had a shaft in the Great Pyramid that actually lines up with Sirius all the time somehow.
Yes.
Wow.
Which, if modern astronomy is right, that's impossible.
Yes, that's impossible.
Okay, but it's there and it's doing it.
And
So,
Sirius is supposedly, I do want to interject, for those of you who don't know, there is a theory that a lot of us came from Sirius, actually, is where we probably started. Maybe not far, far back, but I mean, we might have been seeded from Sirius, actually. There are many humans like us around, and not quite like us, but humans around Sirius. So go right ahead.
yeah, and along that vein, I'm pretty sure that's where the whales and dolphins came from.
Yes, and
So,
the cats and dogs.
okay, that one I didn't know. Okay, so what makes me think this? Because modern astronomers say this precession of the equinoxes, which takes somewhere between 24 to 26,000 years. Okay, so it's a long cycle. You know, we have
Long.
cycles of day and night, we have cycles of the seasons, but this is a far, far, 24 to 26,000 year cycle. Is a long, long time. So, um, the ancient Hindus talked about the yugas, the cycle of ages. And according to their um, cyclical calendar, we have just come out of the Kali Yuga, which is the darkest dark age. And we're now in the Dwapara Yuga, which actually, the dark age would be considered the Iron Age, and the Dwapara Yuga, the Bronze Age. So all this noise about going into a golden age, well, yeah, eventually. But if you look around at what's going on, okay, the first, there's the Iron Age, the Bronze Age when you're ascending, and then the Silver Age, and then the Golden Age. So
So
looking
we've
at,
got a few ages left
yeah,
before we get to golden age.
looking at the landscape, I seriously doubt we are in a Silver Age right now. Which is close to enlightenment. A very high consciousness. I'm just not seeing it, except with a few of us oddballs here who insist on being good and a little bit odd. I'm seeing it there,
Well, I'm from Ohio. I can't help it.
Yeah. Yes. And we have the I don't know if you've heard this, but the Bermuda Triangle of Summit County is actually the Talmadge Circle. Okay, cars go
Oh
in,
my gosh.
but they don't come out. Okay.
I've seen that.
Okay. All right. For those of you who
Seen that
don't know,
phenomena with my own eyes.
4 different roads cross in Talmadge. So there's actually 8 different directions going off the Talmadge Circle. So it is not for the timid. Okay.
It is.
Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but that was fun.
Yes. I used to practice on that thing in the middle of the night when nobody was around. I used to get on there and just go round, round, practice getting on, getting off.
Okay.
Just so that I wouldn't be nervous on there.
Okay.
It's boo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the fact that this one shaft in the Great Pyramid is always pointing at Sirius. So let's talk a little bit about Sirius, and let's go back to the Dogon tribe in Africa.
That doggone tribe. Let's go back to them.
um, there was a pair of French archaeologists or anthropologists that actually lived with the Dogon tribe in Mali, in Africa, for 25 years. And it took years before the tribe members really trusted them. But when they did, when they earned their trust and actually inducted them as members of their tribe, then they started telling them about their deepest and most sacred spiritual beliefs. And their mythos is that thousands and thousands of years ago, beings from the Sirius system, okay, and they had diagrams, and this passed down for thousands of years. And there's the Sirius star, which is actually larger than our sun and much brighter. And they said that there was another star that was smaller but very, very dense, that was circling. So it would be like a Sirius B, and the main
Yes, Sirius
A.
Sirius
Okay,
B.
but
Which is, by the way, the one that most of the life that we know of is around. That's where the cats and dogs are now.
Okay, but it's in an elliptical orbit around Sirius A. And this tribe, and they were talking, they were back there in the 30s and 40s, okay? And
yeah,
these tribe members are talking about Sirius B of being a smaller but extremely, extremely dense planet, which basically translates into being a white dwarf. Okay, so it's not visible by a normal telescope. You can't see it, but with a very high power telescope, it has been seen now. But they were talking
it's an
about
invisible sun.
this, though, that was in their spiritual tradition long, long before Sirius B was discovered. That was discovered in the late 1800s, and it was actually predicted by an astronomer, mathematician who noticed variations in the movement of Sirius, which would mean there's some other, body affecting its movement. So he predicted that, and then some years later, it was actually seen with a telescope. So modern observations with the Hubble telescope, actually, they've trained it on the Sirius system quite a bit. And they're noticing other various smaller anomalous movements. Now, the Dogon said there was a Sirius C, which was much smaller and in a circular orbit around Sirius A. But that has not been totally confirmed by modern astronomers yet. But I predict it will be, because everything the Dogon have talked about, eventually modern science has caught up with. Now they're saying that around this Sirius C, there's a small planet called Nommo, Nommo, and the beings on it are called Nommo, and they are amphibious and about 15 feet tall. And they came to planet Earth many thousands of years ago and taught the Dogon all this knowledge that they have held sacred all these many millennia.
Max Vision.
Yeah, they said they return.
Right.
So anyway, I want to show a picture. Let's see if I can find. Okay, I'll try to pull this up, and okay, it's a little hard. All right, here we go. If you guys can see that, okay, one of those dots represents our sun, the other the Sirius system. Okay,
Right.
And they're each in an oval orbit, in an elliptical orbit. But as you can see, they're always directly opposite each other. Okay, so the top picture
Right.
shows them being at the closest, and the bottom picture the farthest away, and then in the middle, they're partway in between. Okay, but
Right.
they're either traveling toward each other or away from each other, but the movement is such that they're always in the same relationship with each other. And that's why that shaft of the Great Pyramid could always be pointing at Sirius, at the Sirius system. Because we're actually in these two elliptical orbits and always in the same relationship. Now, the reason this like 24 to 26,000 year cycle, the reason there's so much variation there is when two planetary bodies are coming toward each other, they accelerate because of gravity. And when they're moving away from each other, they decelerate because of gravity. So trying to figure out exactly how long the cycle is when you're talking about, around 25,000 years, and our lifetime, on a good lifetime, maybe 80 to 100 years, that's a very small arc of a 25,000 year cycle.
Yes.
So
And
trying to predict, trying to take measurements for so many years and then predict something over this huge amount of time is challenging.
especially since we don't live that long.
And
Now we used to. There were people here that used to live that long. We don't live that long.
yes. So now modern astronomers say this cycle is driven by a wobble in the Earth. Like a top, when it starts to slow down, starts to wobble. Well, they're saying the Earth wobbles. But now there's been modern mathematicians and now celestial mechanics. I love math, but celestial mechanics is above my pay grade. Okay, so I don't understand that math. But they're saying this wobble in the Earth theory, that after a while it mathematically it doesn't hold. Okay, Max Vision Remote. Okay, Sirius was red in the past, but shifted to blue. Okay, now I was going to be getting that, but I'm so glad you brought that up. It was red before 500 AD. Every reference to it in the Egyptian, Sumerian, Babylonian, all the ancient things all referred to it as red before 500 AD. But after 500 AD, it became blue. Now, some people are saying, oh, well, a star can change color because of this, that, and the other thing. But there's a thing in modern astronomy called redshift. Okay. So what this means is if you're observing a star or a galaxy and it appears red, that means it's moving away from you, which makes it appear red, and they call it red shifted. Okay. If it's moving toward you, it appears blue, which means it's blue shifted. Okay, that's the terminology in modern astronomy. So if a star, and Sirius is the brightest star in the northern hemisphere, so a very, very well-known star, and the ancients were obsessed about it. Okay, so all of a sudden it goes from red to blue around 500 AD, And 500 AD was right about the time of the depth of the Iron Age, is when we went from the descending Kali Yuga, the darkest Iron Age, to the ascending Kali Yuga. Okay, so until 500 AD, it was moving away from us. And after 500 AD, it's moving toward us, which would make it appear blue. So that's another reason why I believe in this. So exactly what the implications are now, when are these nomos supposed to return? That's not clear, even from the Dogon. They just said they would return. But my guess is when the two star systems were near their closest pass was when it would be more feasible to travel here. So it would be like 25,000 years later that they would come back, because then we would again be at that closest pass. And it would be the easiest for people space traveling to do that. So we've got about another 7,000 years to wait for the Nomo, I think, before we're at that closest point. So we are actually in the beginning.
I think I have time.
What was that?
Just looking at my non-existent watch going,
okay. 7,000 years, yeah.
I think we got a little, I think we got a little time before that happens.
So basically, looking at what's going on in the world and the corruption and the violence and everything, I could very easily believe that we are just emerging from a dark age.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to believe.
We have our technology is actually quite amazing, but our consciousness has not yet caught up with our technology. Because if we're using amazing technology to build weapons instead of making life better and using it for healing and feeding the world and, improving people's lives, that would affirm for me a higher consciousness. Now, some of us are doing that. We're doing our best. But some of us are doing their damnedest to kill off the rest of us, The
other way, and kill off the ones trying to help people. Yeah, and shutting up the ones trying to help people.
Yes.
That's the other.
Yes. So basically, all right, let me give you some references. A lot of this information was taken was from this book. Okay. It's very hard for me to see when I get it lined up, then I can't see. I got to go back. Okay. Here we are. Lost Star by Walter Cruttenden. This has most of the information, but not all the information. But you can look up. He does talk a little bit about the Dogon. It didn't have all the information I gave you, but some of it. There's also a student of Yogananda wrote a book. Okay. Okay, and her name is, here's her name. Okay, so astrological world cycles. Okay, but she was a student of Yogananda. And there's another book that goes into considerable detail. Pillar of Celestial Fire. Now, this is very interesting. And this author, let's see, Robert Cox. There he is. Okay. He has an interesting story because Robert spent time in Switzerland in a monastery, and he spent 9 hours a day in deep meditation. Now, if you can imagine, after a while of 9 hours a day in deep meditation, information's just started coming to him.
Right.
Yeah, so he's a very interesting person. He's not only this meditator, but he also is a Sanskrit scholar. So he's been able to study some of the ancient Vedic texts from India in the original Sanskrit, rather than relying on translations.
That would certainly make him more credible in my book. I
Yes.
just want to put something up here that I was going to say. And I'm sure you're going to, maybe you were going to even mention this, but I was thinking the same thing. Red Kachina and blue Kachina.
Yeah, I believe if I remember right, this was the Hopi
Yes,
prophecy, and when the blue star appears, we will be entering the fifth world. So
isn't it interesting?
yes, so basically, um, I believe that they were talking about Sirius, the Sirius star system. Now, the interesting thing about these ages, now we've talked before, and probably with or without me, you've talked about Atlantis and Lemuria and ancient civilizations. Okay, the Mayans and
Some extent, yeah.
okay, but like they're not around anymore. So there's several different theories about one is involves the ancient aliens. How in the hell did these ancient civilizations like start at the peak of civilization?
Right.
That's just not a thing. That
Oh,
just
let's just,
it isn't
yeah,
a thing. So one explanation is ancient aliens. Okay, that they brought technology and okay. But another explanation is that this society that we know of, like the ancient Egyptians or Sumerians, that they were actually the remnants of a much older civilization from a golden age. And so, the theory of archaeologists is now that we are the apex of evolution and that everybody before us is more primitive, okay, which is a
yeah.
bit egotistical or a lot egotistical anyway.
And yeah, hard to believe once you really start digging, right?
Yes, if
Uh,
we really start digging, and I mean actually physically digging,
literally, yes.
cities were built upon older cities, which were built upon older cities. And when they've done the actual dig, the deeper they go, the more sophisticated the architecture and artwork.
Right.
Okay,
And
I've
we've
got
mentioned this before.
a comment
And
from Denali Princess. I don't know what is meant by the fifth reset. I don't know what that means.
well, there's also, Paul, people working on finding these. We keep finding these civilizations that were actually destroyed.
Yes.
And,
Now,
they, yeah, and they
maybe,
obviously, every time you go to every level, once again, every level you go down, they get more complex.
yes,
The megalithic structures were obviously not made by modern people because we
right.
cannot do that today.
Now I do know there was
So
five mass extinction events, and this may be
basically, yeah.
what Denali Princess is referring to as the uh, resets.
Well, think about what happens when you reset your computer. if this is a simulation, that's why they're calling it a reset. If this is a simulation and it gets reset, you would have some traces. And I remember from the old days when we used to bulk tapes, when we used to have magnetic tapes. When we used to bulk it, it would be gone, it would be erased, but not completely. There would be traces left over. Okay? So in a way, it's sort of a maybe metaphorical or maybe actual. We don't know, but these we refer to as other resets when the world was, when whatever advanced civilization was destroyed. We have some evidence that at least one was mud flood, water,
Right.
and at least one was fire, which is why we have the melted cities that look like mountains. But they have literally sheets of melted rock over what looks like windows. And that some of these caves were actually cities led into cities at one time, but
Yes.
got melted in a reset event, which would be like something like a solar flare or something like the mud flood event that we've all heard about,
Right.
the water event we've heard about, the flood. Anyway, that's what they're talking about. Is in simulation theory, it's called a reset.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so that's
okay, thank you. Every uh, uh, every place on the planet has flood stories. Everywhere, the ancient Mayans, we have Noah's flood recorded in the Bible, um, and but now there's a researcher, I can't remember his first name. It's Velikovsky. He did a massive amount. He studied ancient myths from all over the world, but he also did major actual geological and archaeological studies. And he found huge drifts of like driftwood up around the Arctic Circle that was 180 feet deep. And when they researched this, they found trees. They could identify like what tree it was. So they found trees, animal bones, uh, uh, ancient seeds of tropical, Arctic, and moderate temperature plants and animals in that drift. So it's like there was a worldwide like tidal wave
absolutely
because everything.
that,
I mean, it was from tropical to Arctic.
that
Um,
the flood event, the water event. Yes.
yeah.
And we
So
do not know how the buildings, some of the buildings that we see that have been mud flooded, we are only seeing the tops of the building. We are not seeing some of them, especially Salt Lake City. And actually, John Levy goes into the mud flood stuff extensively. He's one of them, and there are a few others that I
uh-huh.
watch his channel quite a bit. And he talks about how where he lives in Salt Lake City, they actually found several stories. They're not sure how deep some of those buildings are buried. Several levels under, not
Right.
just one, not just two. They're up to like 5 on one of those buildings now, and that's when they just gave up trying to unbury this building because they don't know how much farther it goes down.
Well, even
So
yeah, even one of the ancient pharaohs basically had this dream or vision, and it was like the Sphinx was talking to him and said it wanted to be unburied because the only thing was sticking out was the head. So
Yeah.
it took years and years. They had to clear away the sand from around the Sphinx because it had become buried. And this, we're talking ancient pharaoh time. It gives
That
you an
was
idea
way
of
back.
just how
Yeah.
ancient. If back in ancient pharaoh time it was almost buried, that sucker is really old. And a modern researcher and geologist, Robert, I think Schlock is his name, looked at um, the erosion at the base of the Sphinx, and he said there's only one way that could have occurred, and that was by vertical water erosion, which means rainfall. And
Rain.
there hasn't been rainfall
A lot of rain.
sufficient like that in Egypt for thousands of years.
Right.
So I do want to let Denali know that I do see her comment about the founded. Yes.
Actually, and John Levy brings that up, and I thought the same thing, Denali, and then John Levy brought it up too, that some of these things were actually not built by us, although they act like they were. They were actually found.
Well,
That
almost.
like the canal system. It's inconceivable that people who were running around building um, wooden buildings and going around with carts and horses would build this elaborate canal system that goes underground. And it never sat right with me. That never made sense to me, that we cannot duplicate these buildings today, but somehow way back when they were just picking themselves up from probably the inherit. That's why they're called the inheritors. We call this the inheritor effect. They were really inheritors. That is, they inherited the technology of the previous the previous people that were wiped out. And that a lot of what we got, including our railways, a lot of the railways look like they were actually dug out, not not laid down necessarily, maybe repaired in a few places. But the canals also were all they look way older. At the time, some of these buildings at the time of their founding, they already looked ancient, like they had been through quite a bit. And so basically, founded, maybe they were just found and redone and repurposed. And that seems to be because why would you need a castle, a huge castle for an insane asylum? Unless you were trying to house all the people that remembered the past.
Well, almost all, if not all, of the beautiful European cathedrals were
Mm-hmm.
built right on top of an ancient pagan sacred temple.
Yes.
And even it's documented, Constantine,
Mm-hmm.
he was a follower of Mithras, which was a sun god, Roman sun god, borrowed from Persian sun god Mithra. Anyway, when he converted to Christianity, then he had a church built right on that site. And so this is very, very common because there's certain spots where there may be an energy vortex or something unusual about the energy. And so it's a great place to build a church or temple or whatever. So this is really a common thing to do. So
Hello, Gemini Moon, and hello, Strangeland Todd, and hello, Ken F. Rotman. We got people coming up,
okay,
coming in now. Gemini is here. Strangeland Todd is here. Um, Ken F. Rotman, he's all the way from he's an Aussie. So we're starting to get people filter in. Okay, so basically, what I was going to say is back to the binary sun, that could cause this little dance between the suns if we're a binary sun. Now the thing tonight is this is serious. I'm serious about this. But so Sirius is provably at least a binary sun, maybe a trinary sun.
Yes.
We so go into a little more how we are possibly a binary sun. How we know that more.
Well, it's because the Cirrus system would actually be our twin because we are,
Oh,
that's our twin. So even though it may be a trinary system, so there may actually be four suns, but basically the Cirrus system would be kind of counted as one body because they all move pretty much together. And Sirius B, the orbit is a 50-year orbit. So that's much, much
oh,
quicker. But now there was a father and son, amateur astronomers, who
that would
did
be.
very, very precise measurements looking at the Sirius system. And what they found, and they were like synced up with the atomic clock. And I mean, they did very, very uh, um, exacting measurements that when Sirius B was lined up with Sirius A in relationship to us, it actually slowed down the rotation of the Earth slightly. So remember,
Wow.
Sirius B is exceedingly, exceedingly dense. We're talking uh, um, a teaspoon of that would be weigh tons and tons. It's exceedingly dense, and so it would have an enormous gravitational field. So that combined with the large Sirius A, actually, like how the moon, affects our tides, that even though they're about 8.5 light years away, that combined effect actually has a gravitational effect on our solar system. Now, what I hadn't gotten to before, because we get delightfully sidetracked sometimes. Okay,
You do.
what I want to go into now is all these different ages. Okay,
Right.
like
And can I say before, just hold just one moment here. I'm putting this up because Ken says this is just a new development. They are excavating for a new skyscraper and found old towns underneath with finds from the 1600s, but we didn't get here until 1770. How do you explain that, right?
hey,
Okay, there's,
so
yeah,
somebody besides the convicts got there before you, apparently.
apparently our world history is bogus.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently there's a lot that we don't know. Okay.
Okay.
Once again, hello, Drake. How you
So
doing, Drake? Steve?
with talking about all of these different ages, the golden age and the silver age, and then the bronze age and the iron age, and then it ascends right up: iron, bronze, silver, gold, and then just keeps going. Okay, there's a couple things I want. The closer we get to the Sirius system, the higher the age. Okay, and the we know from our modern science that electrical, magnetic fields affect our consciousness. They can affect our consciousness a lot. So basically, as we become closer and closer to the Sirius A and B and C system, that the energy field from that, especially from Sirius B, is so dense and so powerful that the closer we get to it, it actually raises our consciousness. That's why we go eventually into the silver and golden ages. Because
Wow.
just being in that field, and then the farther away from it, that's why civilizations fall apart, and that's why there's the decline, is because we're getting farther and farther away from that beautiful energy field. That's why every
Just totally
prediction on
forget.
the,
Oh my gosh. So it's a worldwide forgetting, just like between lives, and we were talking about.
yes, yes,
Oh my golly.
yes.
Oh my golly. And by the way, and Ken Rotman said the Dutch did go there. Yeah, but as far as I know, they weren't really capable of doing some of that either. Some of that stuff either. So,
It's very,
really.
very interesting that our history has been so edited that history written by the victors, yes, yes, and they almost always have an agenda.
They do.
So, so basically, this consciousness, okay. So we're actually speeding toward the Sirius system, and it's speeding toward us. Um, Not directly, but kind of on a parallel course. So it is raising our
Oh,
consciousness.
I've missed you.
Yeah. So it is raising our consciousness worldwide. And you can see many, many people are waking up. And what happens if you are in the controlling, money grubbing, uh, um, 1% or whatever, people that are taking advantage of others and just wanting to be in power and
Psychopathic.
control, okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
getting in that low consciousness, okay. So I don't know if you can see. All right, let's say, oh my God, I can't. All right, I can't do it here. I can't get my hands in the right place because everything's backwards. Anyway, if you think that they're at this lower consciousness, okay, so let's say on a scale of 1 to 1,000, they're at like 39, okay, and really low, in guilt and shame and power and control. Okay, so they're at a very low vibration, but
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the planet, basically, we've gotten up to 180.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're starting to think about love and gratitude and joy, and it's raising us up slow but surely. Okay, so those that are stuck and refusing to evolve spiritually, the gap, the vibrational gap keeps getting larger and larger, and it's almost as if they can no longer breathe the air. It's that sort of thing. Like if you can't breathe, you panic. So
Yeah.
we're seeing
Well,
their
they can't access the same energy is the problem.
yeah,
That
but
energy is falling away. The
yeah,
the
but
particular energy that they're used to is falling away.
as they're going into panic mode, their actions are getting more and more desperate, less and less sneaky, and more overt, which is having the opposite effect of what they want. They're trying to control everybody, and what they're actually doing is waking us up
Right?
because their actions are becoming more and more obvious. So it's obvious to me that for every nutcase that like shoots up a school or a church or a mosque or a temple, I bet you there's 500 to 1,000 housewives making a pot of chicken soup to take to a sick neighbor.
At
There,
least.
there's umpteen guys going over and shoveling the walk of their neighbor who broke his leg and can't shovel his walk, or they go over and mow their lawn. Okay, there's thousands upon thousands of acts of kindness happening all around the world every day. But these
I
are not
have spoken
these
on this.
these are not what make the news. Okay, so our consciousness is rising. We are evolving, and actually, we are not just evolving in consciousness, we are evolving physically. Now, the
Yes,
ancient
we are.
Greeks, many of the ancient Greeks, those whose writings survive, were scientists, philosophers. Their language was precise. The Greek language actually is designed to express exacting scientific principles. And many of the ancient Greeks talked about the tricolored rainbow. Tricolored means when they looked at the rainbow, they saw three colors.
Yep, only
We
three.
now we now see seven. We are physically evolving. This was about 2,500 years ago. So in the last 2,500 years, we have evolved to be able to see four more colors.
And there's also stories about they used to see seawater as being gray, so they could not see blue that well. It seems like the color blue was kind of a newer thing, being able to see things as blue. Now, we're not sure why that is. We're not sure if the skies were just continually kind of gray at that time, or if it was that people's eyes didn't quite see that. Were they more colorblind? I mean, still today we have people who are colorblind. But I did mention that one of the things that, you know, if you have a classroom full of people and one or two bullies, out of that class, who do you notice the most?
The
Right?
bull.
Right. And basically the rest of the people, unless they're, you know, maybe that poor kid that's always getting picked on by the bully, uh, most of them are not going to be noticed, right? So you're probably got the same situation. The people who act out and do crazy stuff are what you're going to see. The rest of the people who are just being nice people and doing kind stuff, you don't see as much of that because, you know, that's a normal thing. That's a normal human thing. We're looking for the abnormal, abnormally, perhaps abnormally generous or abnormally horrible, one or the other, but we're looking for the abnormal. So just putting that in. Or was nothing, yeah, I always wondered about that too. Could they not see the color blue, or was nothing blue? Uh, and you realize that we only see reflected colors. So, you know, did our eyes change? Did the world change? Did the, you know, light bouncing through clouds and our atmosphere somehow cause a change? We're not sure. Could have been any or all of those things combined.
I have a guess. This is only my theory. Is that we know color has to do with vibration,
Right.
certain vibratory frequency,
Mm-hmm.
and the actual visual spectrum. What we can actually see is actually a very very small slice
Mm-hmm.
of the actual spectrum of light. Um, that I don't think those frequencies are what changed. I think it's our perception of them that has changed, because from scientific research, we know there are insects and creatures who can see in the ultraviolet. I mean,
Yeah.
their world must be spectacular.
They're always in a rave. They're always going to a rave. That's what I'm talking about.
Now, there is something on the horizon. There are a few rare people that have extra, boy, now it's been a while since I've looked at that we have rods and cones in our eyes, okay? And I think it's I don't remember which one perceives color, but anyway.
Rods are black and white. The cones are color.
Thank you. Okay, so they have actually extra cones in their eye above what the normal person has, and they actually see colors the average person doesn't. And they go out and they could look at my driveway that just is gravel, and they would see this spectacular sparkling beauty.
I see that sometimes.
Well,
I'm not sure whether it is my physical eyes changing or whether it is my third eye, but I do see that sometimes.
Okay. Well, these they actually physically see with their physical eyes. They see differently because they've done some real scientific tests. Now, this is quite rare now, but I'm predicting that this will become more and more common. And whenever there's an evolutionary change, it usually starts with a few people. Okay, yeah. As far as in the depth of the Dark Ages, who did we see come? We saw Master Buddha and Master Jesus. Okay, but they came to bring this tremendous light. They really helped us get through these dark ages. And now that we're coming out of them, I think we're really, really at the point in consciousness when more and more people, like actually the majority now, are capable of grasping the great truths that Buddha and Jesus put forth. That in their day, only a small circle of people could actually really get it. Because what did we do with their wisdom? We took their wisdom, and in the name of Jesus, we slaughtered millions of people and tortured them. With the Spanish.
We were just talking about it. We just had a discussion about that.
And crusades. Preceding
everything got corrupted. Every religion, we came to the conclusion, every single religion, every single belief form, everything got corrupted. Everything.
Preceding almost every crusade were barbarians who were blocking the trade route. Okay, now if I was a wealthy merchant and I said, Ocean, I want you to go to the Holy Land and get rid of those people to open up that trade route because I want to be even richer than I am, you'd go, sorry, Charlie. But if I say, Ocean, the infidels have the Holy Land, and I know that you're this spiritual, loving person, you're going to go, oh my God, I'm going to go there and free the Holy Land from the infidels. Okay, that's how they got people to go on these crusades. But there actually was one crusade. There was one crusade that was not to the Holy Land. There was one crusade that went to southern France. Now, why in the world would you send crusaders to southern France? Because you believed that that's where Jesus, who survived the crucifixion process, and his wife Mary Magdalene, and their
Who's
children. That's where they went. Okay. That's where they went, and they settled in southern France, and their
which is the
family,
legend.
their family line was surviving there and kept secret to keep them safe. So that's why a pope would send a crusade to southern France. And when the armies got there, they sent a message back. Well, what are we doing there here? What are we supposed to do
What are
here?
we doing? Who are we
And
supposed to kill?
the message came back, kill them all.
Yeah.
Aye. So
Yeah.
it's like Herod. It's like the Herod tried to kill the baby Jesus, and whoever, I can't remember the ancient who wanted to kill Moses. You know what I mean? It's like this story repeating all over again. Okay. So
Mhm.
okay, now I'm getting some max vision. All right, it's a very, very good comment. I do want to comment on that. Um, most children before the age of 5, when they talk about their imaginary friends, they're actually seeing nature spirits, like what we say, fairies or gnomes or whatever. They're seeing nature spirit, or they're seeing angels, and they're talking to angels. But when they tell their parents about it, their parents immediately, because
Our kid is weird.
they don't want their children going to school and talking about this and being bullied or because of religious beliefs.
Okay, I'm
So
plugging in,
this
guys.
kind of talk is very much discouraged. Okay.
Right.
So because it's so discouraged and the children really want their parents' approval,
Mm-hmm.
that by the time they're 5 or 6 years old, their brain wants a parent's approval so much it literally blocks out that, and they no longer see that. And an
We've spoken
example,
to that too.
an
It's not
example,
good to see a Sasquatch, so you didn't see a Sasquatch.
right?
Pretty soon you forgot you saw a Sasquatch, you saw anything at all, because
When
it's not the
when
right thing to see.
when Cook and Magellan were making their famous exploratory voyages, when Magellan got to Tierra del Fuego at the tip of South America, they encountered a canoe culture there. And they, of course, they anchored their ships in the harbor and they rowed in shore. And the natives could see the rowboats because they were a canoe culture. So it looked like a fat canoe. They literally looked out into the harbor and saw the horizon unbroken. There was only one member of the tribe who could see the ships, and that was the shaman. Because the shaman was used to alternate realities of shifting. He was used to shifting consciousness. And the shaman had to teach the people how to see the ships. Okay. When I heard that story, I thought, oh my God, the mothership could be in my backyard and I wouldn't even see it.
Guess what? Some of us have seen it.
Yes, yes. So,
Some of us have seen it.
yes. So basically, if something is outside of our paradigm, then sometimes we actually physically won't see it. Now, I do have a story about this consciousness. My wife and I went to a conference in Virginia, and she had always wanted to stay at a bed and breakfast. So I said, well, let's see if there's a bed and breakfast close to where we're having our seminar. So she found one that was like a mile and a half away. It was great. So we went there, and they were very nice people. And so they seemed to be open-minded and friendly. And so we started telling them about our Reiki and our healing work. And then the 18-year-old daughter who helped in the bed and breakfast, and she was married, she said, well, maybe you can help me. Says, my shoulders really hurt. Let me tell you what happened. I went on a hiking trip with my husband and some of his buddies. And for a joke, one of his buddies put a case of beer in my backpack. And carrying that up the mountain on our hike injured my shoulder, and it's hurt ever since. So I did healing work on her shoulders. And when I was done, she was completely out of pain. And she thanked me profusely, and her family thanked me. And we went on our merry way. It was about 3 or 4 months later, there was another seminar at the same place. And we'd had such a good experience at that bed and breakfast. So Linda booked us at that same bed and breakfast. And so we're there in the morning eating our breakfast. And in comes this young gal. And so I said, good morning. And I asked her, how are your shoulders doing? She said, oh, they're fine. Let me tell you what happened. My shoulders had been hurting. And I went on a camping trip with my husband and some of his buddies. And one of his buddies, for a joke, put a 6-pack of beer in my backpack. And somehow carrying that weight up the mountain adjusted my shoulders, and they've been fine ever since.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like my beard probably hit the table at that point. Okay, I'm like, And then I just took a deep breath and I said, I'm glad your shoulders don't hurt anymore. But I realized having an old hippie from Ohio come down and heal her shoulders was not in her paradigm.
Right.
It was not in her belief system. It was not in her family's belief system.
So that couldn't possibly be the way it happened.
At an unconscious level, this was not conscious. She was not lying to me. At an unconscious level, she changed the story to something she could believe in. And her whole family, who had seen what happened, basically all just were right along with it. That's
Right.
how powerful our belief systems are. We literally will not see what's right in front of our face, or we will change things to match our belief system. That's powerful. That was the big lesson for me.
Very powerful, which means, just as we've been saying, there could be a heck of a lot of things going on that we just, well, considering how experiencers get treated generally, which is why this channel exists the way it does. I always say, you're not on when I say this, but I always say my blurb in the beginning is like, respect our experiencers and respect our guests, because the experiencers, they don't get paid for this. Usually experiencers get the fuzzy end of the lollipop. They're risking things to tell you this. They're risking their sometimes their jobs, their marriages, their the way people perceive them. They're risking a lot sometimes to tell you these things. So let them tell you. You can have your own opinion after that, but just let them tell you what their experience was and respect that, because it can be hard to come forward. And some people, unlike this young lady, they know what they've seen. However, I gotta say, growing up in a very religious household, it's not safe to see some things.
Right.
Your life, if it's a situation where your life could be badly altered by having seen this or having experienced this, it has a tendency to go away. It has a tendency to get buried.
Right.
So,
There's a good comment from Max here. And yes, basically with this cycle of ages, this 24 to 26,000 year cycle, that as we become closer and closer to the Cirrus system, our consciousness raises because of the energy field. And as we get farther and farther away, our consciousness drops. That's why we forget our technology. That's why we can no longer build the beautiful cities and the technology. And that's why every culture on the planet has a mythos about a previous golden age. You know, some sort of
yes,
Garden
the
Eden
good
type
old days.
story. Yeah, that
I've
that
asked about that before. Please, somebody explain to me when these good old days were that everybody refers to. Hey, Pam Smith, how you doing? Just stop by. Okay. Going to Z World. What's Z World? Z World?
wasn't that a movie?
I don't know.
I think that was a movie that I decided to assiduously avoid. Um, it kind of
I'm
looked like
on
a
the other
zombie. Kind
list.
of looked like a zombie movie to me.
Oh,
So,
sleep. Sleep. She's going to go to sleep, is what she's
oh,
me.
okay. Well, that's bless
Yeah,
you.
that's Z's. Okay. Okay,
Have a
Pam.
good.
Yeah,
Have a
where
good.
are you, Pam? Are you like in some place where it's a lot later? Because it's only like 9:50 here, but I know in some places it's a lot later. It's me, I'm going to sleep. Thank goodness. We hope you don't go to the other Z world. We don't want you to go to Zombie Land and you sleep. That would suck. Go to Ohio, okay?
Now,
She's in Ohio like me. We're
oh,
we're in Ohio. Me and Paul are in Ohio.
so
Hello, weird neighbor.
one of the things I want to emphasize is because in every age we have spiritual masters who have come to teach us, and we have advanced students of those masters, and we have, you know, like the Saint Francis's of the world and everything. So there are always those with a higher consciousness. And right now we have almost like library of Alexandria available to us now, and we call it Amazon. Okay, we have spiritual, metaphysical, scientific, and every other kind of book on the planet available to us with 3 or 4 clicks.
Right?
500,
Plus a
600,
whole lot of other stuff.
five or
You know,
six
it's
hundred
not just
years ago,
fiction.
a, a, a spiritual seeker 500 or 600 years ago would have given their right arm for the information that we have at our fingertips. So if we choose to, we can be ahead of the world curve. We can be those who choose a higher consciousness now. We don't have to go to Sedona to find a sacred spot. Now, if you want to go there, beautiful energy, okay, go there. I have no problem with that. But my point is, I don't care if you're in Ohio or if you're in Australia or anywhere in between, wherever you are on the planet is sacred. And
Yes.
you are sacred. And
Yes.
so all it takes is a shift of consciousness. Spend some time meditating, do some healing work, you know, take a Reiki class, do something, you know, Um,
Learn to locate like I do.
yeah, I
Then you
mean,
can go anywhere. you, don't
so
to,
you know,
you
there
don't
there
have to stay in
are
a room during
there
lockdown.
there are thousands of wonderful spiritual teachers. Choose somebody you can relate to, you know, and you can raise your consciousness, and your house, your yard, your life, your body can actually have a sacred and higher consciousness experience now.
Right.
You don't have to wait 7,000 years.
You don't
We
have to climb the mountain and find some old man in a cave.
right,
you don't have to go. Yeah, you
right.
can actually
You
access
can
this
watch an
yourself.
old man right on Ocean's show here. So
Now, I do want to say something, Paul. I do want to say something. You are not an old, you're not, I keep telling you this, but you don't believe me. I'll tell you because you are not an old hippie, although you keep calling yourself, you're not exactly a hippie. And I will tell you exactly how I know that. You, because you have, you're not a, Paul, when was the last time? No, I'm not going to do it on the show, but I'll talk to you later. But you're not exactly a hippie, Paul. What you are is a flower child, technically.
oh, okay. Well, if you want to get technical,
Not a flower child.
I can agree with that.
Hippie has a little different connotations.
Well,
Hippies are the, if you were a hippie, uh, when was the last time you had a do? But anyway, that's a
I
hippie.
you know, I had an experience in high school. I was in a couple of sports, and one day in the locker room, some of the guys had gone out on the weekend and really gotten drunk. And one guy had gotten so drunk he could not remember what he did. And so the other guys were absolutely entertaining themselves by telling him all of the things that outrageous things that he did. And the
Whether
more
he actually did them or not don't matter. But
I doubt he did 90% of them because he kept saying, "Oh my God, I did that," and then the more he reacted, the more they made up outrageous stories. And anyway, I was just sitting back watching this, and this guy was like horrified that he had done all this awful stuff. And I just right then and there, I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school. I said, "This will never happen to me." And
okay.
so I have assiduously avoided drugs, alcohol, everything, simply because I just don't want to go that way.
You don't
So
want
that
people
would
to be able
probably
to.
disqualify me as a hippie then, right there.
I'm sorry, you're disqualified as a hippie. You have to be a flower child.
Okay, but I can handle flower child because I did wear bell bottoms
Or nature child. Nature child's another one.
I had long hair and an Indian headband and bell bottoms. So, but a
Yep.
funny story. I bought a really nice pair of black dress bell bottoms, and this is while I was in college, and that I was going to be going home for a long weekend, and my dad came to pick me up. This was before I had a car. And so I was kind of like, my dad was pretty conservative. And so I was expecting this sarcastic comment about my bell bottoms. And when he saw my bell bottoms, he said, "Oh, bell bottoms. I wore those in the Navy."
The Navy.
Yeah. And
Right.
so, there you have another cycle, okay, of
Exactly.
fashion. So he wasn't offended at all. It was just like, "Oh, I wore those in the Navy." And so, all of
I
my
had a pair of Navy bell bottoms. I had a pair literally from my cousin who was in the Navy. I had a pair of his bell buckles from
Okay.
Wendy
Okay. So
that I
any other questions about the cycle of ages and the binary system? Any other questions or comments about that?
we don't right now have any questions or comments about this. But I think we pretty well chewed it over.
Yeah.
If there are any more, we're definitely, I'm sure it'll show up, they'll come up with it next time. But
Okay.
really, we've been through, you know what? I didn't realize that the theory, and I got to tell you what I got out of this that was very different, is I did not realize that this theory involves Sirius being our twin sun.
Yes.
I did not realize that. That was not part of it. People were saying, well, then what is the twin sun? I heard that part, that there may be one and, all of this stuff.
Mhm.
And then I have to wonder, well, you know what? I've got a question. Could it be that getting that close, if it has that dense of an energy, I mean, if it's that dense of a star, could that actually be, oh man, how would that affect our physical planet
You
when
would
it came very
I've
close?
thought about this. I've thought about this, and um, if we can be 8.5 light years away, and when the Sirius A and B line up, actually change the rotation of the Earth, actually slow it down just slightly. If we're way, way closer, I was thinking, does this account for some of the earthquakes and catastrophes that we've had that have buried the ancient cities?
Is that the
I don't
actual
know. I don't have
event?
an answer for that, but that's I have
And
pondered
then
that question.
the guys and then the people who are, oh my God, I just had a thought. And then following that, we come and we get our consciousness gets higher and higher. We hit our golden age. Those of us who hit that golden age, we're gone. Maybe our bodies just go poof, and we are no longer physical. And then whoever is left on the planet slowly forgets. Whoever was maybe in the underground cities or whatever, they gradually forget. And whoever was not, could it be? Oh, geez.
Yeah,
I have to think about this quite a bit now.
yeah, I have pondered this, but okay, let me put something forward. Okay, you and your group of oh man, I'm blanking on it. When you travel, when your consciousness travels, the
RVers or
remote, yeah,
bilocators.
your remote viewing. Okay, so what if you remote viewed like the previous golden age? And are you remote viewed being closer of our solar system and the Sirius system being closer to each other? You would either
Could
have to
do that.
you would either have to go forward thousands of years or backward thousands of years. It would
Could do
actually
that.
be actually closer to go forward now, because we're at the beginning of the ascending bronze age right now. So it would actually be closer to go forward.
Let
So
me interject here. When I was going back, crossing souls over that were caught here, earthbounds, crossing over earthbounds. Some of them was hard to believe. I kept going further and further and further back in time because I didn't get anything that I should stop. So I just thought, well, let's try a little further back. And actually, it was going quite fast because we had like the whole host of heaven pretty much. Everybody was helping cross these beings over. But I only could go back 35,000 years ago. And then I had to stop. So something was happening 35,000 years ago that I could not no longer cross people over, or for some reason maybe didn't need to cross people over any. So whenever that was, whatever was going on there 35,000 years ago, I couldn't go past that point. I was told to stop. I was just said, that's it, stop. But all the way back to 35,000 years, I was doing this. And I mean, my crew was around me when I did this. We did this live on the air. And crazy, I know, crazy as all get out. But we did it live. So if anybody can answer that, why I could only go back 35,000 years, that would be very interesting to me, because I don't know what happened then.
So I'm proposing a second remote view is go back to that time. But I'm suggesting to make that two different events, though.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. But that would be an interesting thing to, to do it in a way that you're not programming what you're going to find. But
that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
That's always the tricky part. And I'll talk to Max about it, Max Vision, because it's really John's channel where we do that mostly.
Okay.
So I'll talk to him about it and see if we can set it up to do it some point when people don't know that's where we're actually going, because otherwise that's called front loading and can really alter things.
Yes.
We found that front loading really does alter things a lot. You can't.
Well, with the professional remote viewers, basically, they go into it blind. They have no idea. They're just given a task, and then they go.
Coordinates.
Yeah.
They're given coordinates, numbers, letters. Yes. We're quite aware.
Yeah. So that
and
would be
Jason Whitmire says life in Paleolithic Europe. That would be Paleolithic time.
It would be very interesting to see, because there's so much evidence of ancient civilizations. Cities under 200 feet of water. And we know the oceans have risen 200 feet. Okay, so the ancient cities that were on the seacoast, when the water rose 200 feet, would be 200 feet underwater. So
yeah, all coastal cities during these resets, coastal cities always get it.
Yeah. So
and you know what the weirdest part is? That is where people settle and build, is along the coasts of everywhere. And that only stands to reason, because how did you get there? Probably by boat.
Right.
No, and where is the water? I mean, you need water. So most settlements are on a coast or near a coast. That's where it all starts. So if the coasts are buried underwater, oh my gosh, that's very unfortunate. But yeah, it sort of looks that way. Wow.
And how many cities are on a riverbank?
Exactly.
Like Cincinnati.
Because you've got to have water.
Cleveland. It's not a riverbank, but Cleveland's right on a Great Lake. You can get to it by boat.
Florida would be toast. Michigan would be toast.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't be toast. They'd be buried. They'd be drowned. Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway,
exactly. So yeah, well, that probably explains why we don't know a lot of things. Uh, wow, bears
well,
and caves. Okay,
if
obviously.
after these golden ages with this really high spiritual consciousness, and we build beautiful cities, and we have this wonderful technology, and then as our consciousness drops and drops and drops, and we forget, and then there's an earthquake or a tidal wave or whatever, and things get destroyed, then nobody knows how to rebuild it.
Yeah, or the people who did know how to rebuild it are under, 20 feet of mud, or
Right.
uh, they're long gone, or they got fried. You
Yeah.
know, something.
Um,
Yeah, and they say that would happen. Actually, the places where, if anything would happen that would knock out our power grid entirely, um, the countries that didn't even have electricity, would the people there, and the places that don't have electricity, they'd probably survive it better than we would. We would not do very well, because we would not. Most of us do not even know how. I mean, I'm using this phone. I cannot tell you how this phone works. I couldn't repair it. I couldn't fix it. I couldn't do any of that. So, you couldn't fix even probably the smallest things.
right.
So, everything, all of that would go. All that would go, because people wouldn't be able to use it. It would just be junk. And, that would be most of our civilization right now. I mean, everything that runs on electricity would be useless.
Right.
So where would you throw it? You'd throw it in the dump and have to learn how to do everything by hand. And most people have no clue how to do that. And there would be mass starvation and all kinds of madness. And yeah, I can see how this scenario plays out. And frankly, and that is if we survive. Yikes. Yeah, that's a lot to think about, folks.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah. And
and that
there's in this book, the celestial the pillar of celestial fire that I showed you. He's the Sanskrit scholar and the one who meditated 9 hours a day. He's saying the exact number of years of that cycle is 25,960 years. So, to give some perspective on that, how do we know what happened almost 26,000 years ago? We can't agree on what happened on January 6th, a year and a half ago,
we
and
say
we have
what
it
we've been
on
through.
tape. We have it on tape, and we can't agree on what happened. So how do we know what happened 25,000 years ago? So
25,000 years ago, which means 10,000 years before that is when I could no longer. Yeah.
yeah, so that would have actually been before the last golden age. You'd have been all the way back into the previous silver age. So I don't know what happened, and I can't tell you that I have this. I'm relying on some of these Hindu yogis for the information, and I can't verify that they're absolutely correct. I suspect they probably
Wait
are.
a minute. Wait a minute. If it's 25,000 years, now think about this. It's 25,000 years. Then 25,000 years ago, they were at the point in the cycle where we are now.
Yes.
Where we are now. And you say we're in the bronze. And right before the bronze would be the iron.
Yes.
Therefore, 10,000 years before,
you'd have been you'd have been like in a descending silver age or something. But okay, now let me throw out one more thing that affirms for me the grace of the divine.
yes.
All right, let's make it real simple and say it's 24,000 years, okay?
Right.
The golden age is 4,800 years long, which means you have an ascending golden age and then a descending golden age. So it's actually 9,600 years of golden age. Okay.
Wow.
The silver age is 3,600 years. The bronze age is 2,400 years. And the iron age is 1,200. So at the bottom of the cycle, you've got a 1,200 year descending iron age and then a 1,200 year ascending iron age. So the darker the age, the shorter it is. To me, that
Oh, thank goodness, huh?
that affirms divine grace.
Yeah.
The
Thank
golden
goodness.
ages are 4 times longer than the dark ages.
Let us look forward to those days then. Holy crap, though, that's a long time. And these kings that lived thousands of years would be seeing that stuff. Would be seeing these changes, and they'd know. And there is no guarantee that some of these beings that lived thousands of years are dead. They could still be around. They could still be alive, some of them.
Mm-hmm. So
And maybe they've seen all this.
I'm going to have to write this. I'm going to have to write Jason's comment down. Hang on, don't erase that. Let me, because I have not heard of Malta. I've got to write this down. Okay.
I knew you were meant to be in this stream, Jason.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jason. I've got that written down. That's one more thing.
Here's another one he found. 3,600-year-old monument in New York City.
Wow. Okay.
So, Jason, you may have to come on the show one day and talk about this stuff. Let's talk about your findings someday.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's neat.
Well, Paul, it's been very illuminating, and we have gone through quite a bit of information. And I don't think anybody can complain that this wasn't informative and thought-provoking. And if anybody tries, I think they're lying. So
yeah,
I think this was very thought-provoking and informative.
I like things that are thought-provoking, but I really liked when Rainbow Eagle, who's a Native American elder.
I remember him.
Okay. So now
he's meeting him.
Like if he gives a talk here, he might have 20 to 40 people, depending on where he is. He might have 100. Okay. When he went to Italy, he had 800 people show up. Okay, they're absolutely fascinated with Native American spirituality in Italy. So he's talking to this crowd of 800 people. And of course, he's in Italy. So most of the crowd is Catholic. So after he gave his talk, he had this lady walk up to him and tell him very, very proudly that she was a cafeteria Catholic. And he goes, "Oh?" And he goes, she said, "Yeah. Is you take all the ideas, put them out on a table, and just like a cafeteria, you take what you want and you leave what you don't." So that's what I'm suggesting when I give a talk like this. That's what I'm suggesting. Take what you like and
Ah,
leave what you don't.
my dad was pure-blooded Dane, so to me, it's going to be a smorgasbord. To
Yeah,
other people, it will be charcuterie. But that's another it's another thing. That's for a cooking show.
yeah.
But yes,
2004,
it's like what take what
2004.
you like, take what vibes with you, and the rest
Yeah.
you don't have to. Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
see
that's
the note about the old ancient Greek ship found. Yeah, the ancients were sailing the seven seas long before Columbus.
the Vikings were here too. Uh, Here we go. Dad was Danish. Yep, the Vikings were here too. Yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Um, a lot of people were here, and there's indications that even a lot more people here, and really some of the first discoverers from Europe found teeming cities here, and of course they died of smallpox. But they had big cities here of people, and you can't take over a place that's people, so you got to convince people there ain't no people here. So before you can take it over. So really, there's a lot to that too. I mean,
Well,
here's another thing. I'm just throwing it out there. And John Levy did this. He did a game on his show. He played what? Where am I? Where are we? And he showed pictures of buildings from all over the world. And he said, "Where is this? Does this architecture? Where does it? Where do you think this is that we are?" And he found the same freaking architecture, the same architecture. It looked like the Notre Dame Cathedral, all these castles and everything. He found them all over the world, and I'm talking even in Asia. I'm talking even in. We have this idea of Chinese structures, what they look like, Asian structures. Guess what? Before that, the older ones, even older than that, and this may be why they're destroying Tibet, is they look just like our buildings here,
right.
our ancient buildings.
Well,
This culture spans the whole world. They all built the same way. They had the same kind of things going on all over the place. This was a worldwide advanced culture. There is no doubt about that. And at that time, there was a certain way of building. They call it Tartarian. They call it Tartarian, but it wasn't really just Tartar or Tartaria. It was just a worldwide culture, and quite possibly Atlantis, what they talk of as the Atlantean culture.
well,
But that is another show for another day.
yeah, yeah. There are along that same line. There are ancient, large pyramids in China, all across Europe, Mexico, South America. It's pyramids everywhere.
Everywhere. There's pyramids everywhere too, yeah. Even
Yeah.
here in Ohio, I'm convinced we're going to find a pyramid in Ohio and in Michigan as well. I'm sure. We're going to find some here in the northern, in North America, but they've been buried. As a matter of fact, I have a funny feeling I know where we're going to find them, but we got to have pyramids here in Ohio buried.
I wouldn't
Got it.
doubt it. Well,
That would
thank
explain the
you.
weird.
I'm getting a comment from Gemini, so thank you for the positive comment, Gemini. So, well, I'm going to sign off for now, but
There, Jason's got it. Gangzhou Sacred Heart Cathedral de Notre Dame of East Asia.
uh-huh.
Oh, Jason, you're on top of it tonight, man.
Yeah, you've
You
done some
are
research.
really freaking on
Great.
top of it.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So,
Wow, I told you they're smart. The
oh
people
yeah,
in here are
this is
smart.
great.
They're
So,
really freaking smart. They
it,
know.
it's really actually, you know what? It's something I heard just recently. Sometimes it's fun preaching to the choir.
It is,
You
but
know,
we don't know everything. Not of,
right?
like I said, I knew about this twin sun thing, but I didn't realize it never dawned on me it was Sirius that was our twin. I
Yeah,
know that we're supposedly come from there, or there's a theory that that's where we usually, I mean, because obviously we didn't evolve here. I'm sorry, but we didn't. It just, to me, it's just obvious we did not evolve here. The whole caveman story is bullshit. And people who say they have memories of that also say it's bullshit. But, excuse my French, but I'm just speaking plain here. But where do we come from? Could it be Sirius? Somewhere around Sirius? I think so. I think we now have possible clues because we are the species. Now, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Sasquatch knows finally, when somebody got close enough to Sasquatch to be able to communicate with them properly and ask them this question, do they know what they are, where they're from? And the Sasquatch pointed to them, we're like you, and pointed that way. And them, that's how they communicated that. Like you, and then them. Pointed up to the sky. And I'm like, what have we been saying? Okay, and what about us? You know what? I think we can do the same. Well, and
right.
missing link is ET. Okay. I
Oh,
think
good.
the missing link is an ET. Okay, you guys, I love you. Paul, this was just great. We've got to do this again sometime. I mean, I always am giddy after these shows because the guests are so cool and the audience is so cool. I mean, I'm absolutely. Oh, wait a minute. Well, we got one more from Jason. The Great Pyramid of Ohio, Montville,
Montville.
Ohio. Oh my gosh, you're
I,
serious.
that's up in Geauga
Montville,
County.
Ohio. Jason, we gotta go.
I uh I grew up near Chardon,
Oh
which
my God.
is right near Montville.
Oh wow, Paul, we gotta go.
When I go to visit my in-laws, I drive right through Montville.
Oh man. Jason, send me the link to that. We're gonna do a show about pyramids.
Yeah.
All over the world pyramids. We're gonna have to put together a show on that because that's something people gotta know. I knew it. I knew it. Pyramids in Ohio had to be. I'll tell you where another one is. Under the Great Lakes. Under the Great Lakes. There's got to be
Ooh.
pyramids because of the Great Lakes Triangle.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Okay, you guys. Till next time. And I'm going to try and keep it interesting here. And God, I got the best audience and I got the best guests. Paul, so glad you made it tonight. It was so wonderful. We did nearly 2 hours, Paul.
Well, good
Yeah,
night.
pat yourself
Good
on the
night
back.
and good night and bless everyone.
Bless it. Yeah, bless everyone. Blessings to
Okay.
everyone. Thank
Take
you so much for coming, people. You really amazing night. Thank you.
take care.
And Paul, we're gonna be looking forward to having him back, right? And Jason will be another one that come on one of these times. Oh my gosh, Jason, you're coming up with all this stuff. Where have you been hiding that? Have you been hiding that in your back pocket all this time? Holy cow! Holy cow, boy! You gotta you, you gotta get that shit together and come on the show. Tell us about it all, man. You got a new career. Okay, I love it when it turns out like this, people. I love it, and I want to thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, which is quite a lot. I found this to be like one of our best. And honestly, hope you all come back. Please like, share, subscribe, send people here that you think would be interested in the subject matter, and help my channel grow so the people that want to talk about this can find it. Because I can't do it on my own. It's going to be on you guys to do. I can't do everything on my own. And I need, oh, by the way, if anybody hears this that's interested, I need someone to help me book guests, and I need someone to help me drop the links to the shows in different places so that people can find us, because that is a lot. I mean, there's a lot to going into putting together a show. Even though I'm doing this on my phone and not on my computer, and it's not as elaborate as some people show, there's still a lot putting a show like this together. So please, if anybody would like to help with it, please let me know. I would love to have some help. And good night, everybody. I'm going to say my usual blurb. Don't forget, you are divine and you are creators, so create well. And when you sleep, dream well. And the truth is where you find it. Hope you're finding some on my show. See you next time. Love you.